Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to Beyond the Page. I'm Jennifer Crosswhite, book coach and editor at Tandem Services. As you can see, they have added little branding things at the bottom, which is very cool. And Stephanie Fager, our bookmarking expert extraordinaire, she left extraordinaire off her list.
You know why, Jen? Because I can't spell it.
And also, it probably wouldn't fit, right? I don't know how much room does it give us.
I don't know. We might have to test it next time. But I thought if I spell extraordinaire and my fun editor friend yells at me for spelling it wrong, I'm not even going there.
I love it. It's fun. I love, technology is just booming. And I think that's fantastic for especially people like us. I mean, honestly, we really couldn't do what we do 20 years ago. The
10
technology,
years ago, Jen.
10 years ago, really, the marketing, the technology, the funnels, all of that just really didn't exist in the same way.
Yeah.
And I often think about, this huge industry that has come about, and that's fantastic. And I think it's been really great. And, technology is always a little scary at times. We've had a lot of conversations lately about AI and all that, what that might mean. But I think for the most part, I think it can be a tool. And like with any tool, you can use it for good or for evil. So use it for good.
I agree. Well, and you have to also give yourself parameters to not go and do just because the technology exists doesn't mean that you absolutely need it or you have to do it, right? Like what I as with, you and I talk about like project management tools and stuff that we've used before in the past, right? That we both love using. If you have to know what your goal is for them before you get in them, or you will find yourself doing things within them that have no relevance.
It's so easy to go down rabbit holes. And as writers, we are easily distracted anyways, right? And so you could spend your whole day chasing down one little crazy thing and then be like, why did I even do that? That's like
and
not
not getting any writing done or book selling or market
right.
anything.
It's and I think the reason is there's a legitimate reason. The reason is anything that requires deep work, knowledge work, which is everything that we do. That burns a lot of glucose in your brain. And your brain is like, do we really have to do that? Like, it's all about survival. So it's like, I don't know. Do I have to do that? Once you get over that, and I talked about the snowplow hump, right? Once you get over that, you're fine. It's the getting over it. And so a lot of times we allow ourselves, we tend to run on autopilot and we will allow ourselves to be distracted. And on these rabbit trails, things that burn less glucose instead of doing the things that we actually really want to do. So
I think part of figuring that out is knowing what, like, are there things in your day that allow you to easily stay on the wrong side of the snow hump, right? Like, so for me, mornings are brilliant. If I can get up early and people don't distract me, I'm not getting emails, it's quiet, I can enjoy the hum of the heater and my hot tea, then I can be really productive, right? But if it's in the evening and my kids are home, I'm like, it's a lost cause.
Too many things going on. And I lose, you lose throughout the day, you lose willpower, you lose all these things you sort of run out of energy for by the end of the day. And so I'm not everybody's a morning person, but I know for me, it's the best.
They're not, Jen?
I know it's really odd to me. My children actually are not morning people, which is actually to my benefit because like right now they're still asleep. They're young adults, so
it's almost noon, but not where you are.
No, but so what? It wouldn't matter, honestly.
You know what? Right? But when you came and hung out with me for a week or so, it was lovely because I got up early and I remember thinking, I'm going to tiptoe around the house to get up to the office. And you're like, good morning. And I'm like, because I can't say good morning to my husband. Like he might get up, but I wake up with this energy. Other people have to be talked and coaxed into it, right?
Right.
It was really lovely to have another morning person in the house.
It's nice. You get a lot of things done when it's nice and quiet. And so whatever that is for you, and obviously when my children were super little, it didn't really matter when I got up. They could hear me like with their eagle ears or what. I don't know. Do eagles have ears? I'm sure they do, but I think it's their eyes. They're better. Who has supersonic hearing? Some animal with supersonic hearing. Bats. That's it. So with their bat hearing, they would be up. Like I could be up for like 10 or 15 minutes trying to be so quiet. And all of a sudden I'd hear, Mom, Mom.
So we have a rule in our house because my kids are at that age, Jen.
Yeah.
And our rule is everybody got an alarm clock for Christmas.
Nice.
I said, I don't want to see your face before 8 o'clock. Like,
Yes.
if you wake up, that's fine.
Just play in your room.
Just hang out in your room. Like, I need to know that if I wake up early on purpose, that I can be productive. My kids are old enough.
Yeah.
They don't need me. 8 o'clock. And we, the school solution we have doesn't start until 9. So it's plenty of time to get ready. All is good in the world.
Yeah.
But before, I mean, my oldest says he never sleeps. I'm like, you need to, because I need a break from you. I love you, but I need a break. Please give me a break.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting. So the key is really, and this is what I love about the book Atomic Habits. I recommend it all the time. I had a client message me and say, oh my gosh, I was listening to you on Beyond the Page talk about Atomic Habits, and it's so great. I just picked up the book, and it's really
that
true.
makes my heart happy.
Because his whole point is you need to create a system that works for you, that's going to work over and over and over again. And the goal of setting up something that is repeatable and that works for you is very, very, very key.
Yes.
And so
I don't know that we're going down this path today, but I am just going to throw out, if that author happens to be listening, Profit First is a beautiful topic for author and budgeting in regards to Atomic Habits, because it outlines habits in your business and in your authorpreneur business to ensure that you are being successful from the beginning. And I think about that in budgeting, and I think about how knowing my cadence and pulse in my own business of when I allocate, when I review what I do, all those moving pieces. And that is a pivotal part when we're talking about the money portion of book design, development, publishing, marketing, and everything in between.
Well, and like we said last week, there's really kind of two rough camps that we're talking about. Oh, the kitty ghost has come in. I wonder what it is. Just over there. It is Pippin. Okay. Well, she'll probably stay under the desk because the heater's on and it's warm. She has a little box
where I would want to be.
Yeah, it's nice and warm down there. So, we have kind of two rough buckets that we're talking about in this series on budgeting. One is people who don't have any desire to create an authorpreneur business, and they are writing because they love it. It's something they want to write as a legacy for their friends, for their family, something on their heart. And the success and the reach and the impact is really not their primary goal. Right. The main goal is really for self-satisfaction. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's at all. It's a fantastic goal. And you can still do that and budget money to work on your craft and to be really good. As I've said before, people spend a lot of money on their hobbies, right? Photography, golf, travel, all these things, many children's sports. It's going to be very expensive, right? You can spend a lot of money on things. And so there's nothing wrong with spending money on something that you love and leaves an amazing legacy.
Absolutely not.
No, not at all. But those are not the people we're primarily talking to in this series. Primarily, we're talking to people who are going to ultimately become an authorpreneur. Whether you start out that way or not, you might have a lot of hesitancy and thinking, I don't really want to, I just want to write a book. I don't really want to do this whole thing. But as you've talked about and so well, this is sort of what happens when you do write a book that creates an impact. You are now starting a business, and you do have to think about money, and you have to think about cash flow and how it's going to come and go, and what are you going to spend money on. And for most of us who are more artistically inclined, that is not a fun thing to talk about, but it's necessary, and it's very, very, very doable. So I think maybe later in the series, we can talk more nitty gritty, but what we're going to focus on today is the book budget that you want to think about for the writing of your book. Now, a lot of people think, well, I just sit down and I write the book. What do I need for that? And so I would like to encourage you to think about ways that you might want to work on your craft during the writing process. And so what happens, and I had 2 coaching clients this week that we had this exact issue with. What you write, when you start putting it down, it becomes like quick setting cement, right?
Yes, it does.
Experience too, right? You start writing something and you go down this rabbit trail or wherever you go, and it's very hard to pull it back. And very hard to re-change it. to pull things apart and recombine them to make it a marketable book. It's very hard to do that once you've got something sort of set in your mind. And so I encourage people to think about getting help early in the process, even if it's just a strategy call, just to talk about, is your book marketable? Is it a marketable idea? You and I both offer these. Let's talk about this idea and what your goals are and what you want to accomplish, because spending some money on a strategy call could really help you save you lots of time and money in the long run from going down the wrong path. And,
and just because, like, even if you've written one book, or even if you do this for a living, you still need this, and you need to consider this because you're too close to it. There's a book I'm working on. It's that random pop. It's not random, but that unexpected one, Jen. And last week I had a moment where I was like, exactly what you said. I thought, I have 18,000 beautiful words. And I stopped and I was like, why is this hard? Anytime I find myself, and I know not everybody is like this, but when I find myself in the writing process, something is not happening easily or coming easily, there's a reason.
Yes.
And so I paused and I'm like, why is this hard? And so I pulled out a different sheet of paper in a whole different place. And I said, I need to figure out, what are my goals again?
Yes.
And I told my husband, I said, I think if I'm doing this, I think I need a complete rewrite. And he's like, what? And I said, it's okay. I think I can pull from some of my previous, but I have to relook at this because of exactly what you said. And it had become me trying to fit in this writing I had done before, and it was not feeling right. I think that your intuition as a writer, your intuition and your gut are very, very big indicators of if we need help.
Yes. Sometimes you need to back up, start over, go in a different direction, move something. You're exactly right. And as I was saying yesterday, you can trust the creative process. It does work. It may take time.
Absolutely.
But it does work. You will eventually find all of the pieces and the right way, but you can move it through it so much more quickly if you work with somebody who has that perspective and who can look at it from the outside. So at the very low end of the scale would be like a strategy call, which is, again, that ranges, but you're in the hundreds of dollars for a strategy call.
Right.
My fiction writing people, I actually have a fiction writing course, and it is for pantsers or plotters. It is the big questions you need to answer when you're structuring a novel.
Hold on. What did you call these people? Something in plotters?
Pantsers.
What's a pantser?
Right by the seat of your pants. You don't plan. Some people call them discovery writers.
That's
You've never
me.
heard that before?
I'm a pantser.
Yes.
What are you? You're a plotter.
I'm in between. I do some high level plotting, and I plot sections as I go along, but I get to a point, I'm like, I just got to write. Like I can feel it. Okay, now it's time to get the words on the page.
That's
but in fiction, because there's so many layers going on, there are questions, foundational questions you need to know the answers to before you start writing. Now, if you want to answer those questions and then go off and see where it takes you, that's great. If you want to do a detailed outline from that, that's great. But having those questions answered through the Novel Blueprint course is the way to go for my fiction writing friends.
And I've had the opportunity to take a sneak peek in it, and it's an amazing course.
Oh, that's
Jen
right.
is a cesspool of knowledge, and a good cesspool of knowledge. And she really leaves it all on the table. Like, she just shares everything with you. And so it's beautifully done and really, really valuable. And it is a nice teaser into what you need. And see, now I have Oreo.
You have Oreo, who looks just like Pippin.
I know. And he says, normally this is at 3:30 in the afternoon. He comes and does his midday check on me.
It's like, wait, we need to see what's going on.
Yeah, but he's playing right now.
So courses are usually the do-it-yourself, right? It's the budget-friendly option. They're hundreds of dollars, again, not thousands of dollars. They're an investment of your time. Yeah. What you don't get from the course is personal feedback saying, am I doing this right? Same thing with when you get books on craft.
Yep.
You can apply it, but you don't know if you're doing it right.
Right.
And so then you start moving into the coaching, and this is done with you. So a coach comes alongside and there is a wide variety. Book coaching is a real new thing. It's really, it's just not, it used to sometimes be called book doctoring, but that was generally more after the fact.
Do you think that's because the publishing industry's evolved? Do you think?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes. Back in the day, really far back in the day, book coaching was what the editors would do, right? They would see an author with a lot of potential, and they'd bring them on and they'd coach them through writing the manuscript. And, they don't do that anymore. There's just no time. There's not money in it. That just doesn't happen. And so then there's this big gap of, well, how do you learn the craft of writing?
Right.
And so that's kind of where book coaching has come from. And there's generally two different areas of coaching.
Thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So one is coaching while you're writing, which is draft coaching. I do a lot of this. I help you write the book. We brainstorm. We talk about all the main pieces that we want, fiction and nonfiction. What is the goal? Who is our audience? All of those things we talk through. And then I help you as you're writing the book all the way through. Cool. The other version is you've already written your book, but it needs help. And that's revision support. So some hybrid publishers offer this. Some people just kind of randomly offer this. You usually will commit to either a certain number of sessions or a certain period of time. And so usually a 4 to 6 month period, because you need a significant amount of time to work through this stuff. This is not going to be kind of a one-off thing. Yeah. And now we're talking thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. And this will range quite a bit, but it's going to be thousands of dollars. However, you will get that feedback, that personal feedback that you need, that will save you down the road time, frustration, writing multiple books as you're trying to figure out how this is going to work.
Yes.
All of that kind of stuff. So down the road, it's worth it. Also, it can save you on the next step, which is developmental editing.
Right, right.
Usually people that have been through coaching can go straight into copy editing, instead of developmental editing. So that brings us into developmental editing.
Okay, before you go there, let me ask you a question, because there is another way, if budget is a concern for you, that you might get access to some of that other coaching, and that's if there are retreats or different kind of workshops that coaches can offer, because that is, it's personalized, but it's not a one-to-one, and that's where costs can be shared amongst the group. You would agree, right?
Yes, absolutely. You won't get a full book thing, but someone will give you feedback on a chapter or a scene or something like that. Or perhaps you can, a lot of conferences you can pitch, and they can give you feedback on your pitches and say, no, that's actually not a good fit for the market. It would be better if you tweaked it like this, or the market's really looking for this. And you can decide if you want to do that or not. Yes. So conferences and retreats, again, they're thousands of dollars by the time you end up getting there, but they can be a really great resource as well for people trying to get some specific, especially if you come in knowing I want some specific feedback on this particular thing, and that is what that retreat or workshop or conference offers. So that's
the hiccup on that is, and this is just in general, Jen, when we're talking about any form of investing, and I know I'm jumping the gun to like book marketing too, and like brand development, all these assets, right? If you don't know what you need, then you could find yourself investing in things that you don't need, and taking you down other rabbit holes. So you mentioned like, okay, well, it might give you this part of something. Yes, if you know that's what you need, but what happens if you don't? Right. And then you've done something like gone down a rabbit hole, and it is not good advice for you.
Yes. Yes. And that's where that strategy call can be so helpful. It can save you a lot of time and money.
Exactly.
And as we've talked about before, there are plenty of people out there willing to take your money that are bad actors. And that's my biggest pet peeve, is people who promise all sorts of things and don't deliver. And you don't know, if you don't know the business and you don't know what you need or you don't need, you don't know if what they're offering is any good or not. And I mean, I see this in editing in author groups all the time. Well, my editor only charges $300. Okay, is it any good? Are you even qualified to judge if it's any good? Do you even know what kind of editing you're getting? Because to be honest, the amount of time it should take someone to go through your manuscript, I mean, they can make more money working at McDonald's.
Amen, Jen. Amen.
So why should they do it?
That in the form of getting help with your book, you're investing in someone's time and expertise.
Yep.
And exactly, you get what you pay for. And I hate to say that, but if they, a $300 editing, I mean, I'm just shaking my head thinking there's no way. I've edited books for people, and you can't pay me. If you paid me that, I would rather spend time with my family
That's right. That's
than do
exactly
that.
right.
Because you're talking hours and hours and hours
Mhm.
and hours and hours of work. And you're not going to get that quality if someone's getting paid, $5 an hour. Like,
Right.
they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
They're not gonna do it.
It's a hobby for them. It's not a business.
Right.
And so anybody that is a professional, you're going to pay professional rates for that. And you're paying not only for their time, but you're paying for their knowledge
Yep.
and their experience. And
Yep.
as we started opening with AI, I'll just throw that in here. Plenty of people run their stuff through AI editors, Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid. There's things I use that are AI perfected, but they are computers. There's only so much that they know. They can't understand author intent. They can't understand. They can draw your attention to something to look at it, but if you don't know the rules, if you don't know what you're trying to convey, if you don't know how to make a sentence clear or the whole structure clear, better, the tools are only going to go so far because
Yep.
they're computers, and English language is a particularly challenging language. Native speakers struggle with it.
Yes.
And so computers are always going to struggle with the fact that so many words have so many multiple meanings. Sometimes you can or cannot determine that from the context. And so,
Yes.
again, this is part of what goes in to good editing. And so, and then the other thing is there are lots of different kinds of editing.
Yes.
They tend to throw into 3 buckets, but people call them different things. And so that's also confusing. So whenever you're hiring an editor, ask them, make sure you know for sure what kind of editing you're getting.
Yep.
Many people think of what they think of editing is copy editing. And that's just looking at sentence structure, word choice, flow.
Yeah.
You need to back up and go to developmental editing, which takes a lot of years of learning and craft because there's not in the same way the rules like
Not
those
black or white.
right.
Yep.
There's
It's
maybe rules you can learn to be a copy editor and take tests and that, but for developmental editing, you're looking at the structure. How is this working? Where is it falling apart? What is the reader's journey like? You want all of that done and taken care of. What if you decide to delete a chapter or you need to add a chapter or you move things around? There's no point in doing copy editing first because you're editing things you may not keep. So I almost always recommend, unless you're a seasoned, experienced author,
right,
you need a developmental edit first. And that can be very, very good at helping you figure out what's working with your book, what's not working with your book. This is often where people hear things they don't want to hear because we will give you feedback we'll ask your goals. If your goal is to write a marketable book, I will tell you if this book is marketable or not. And it might not be what you may not want to hear that. And that's okay. You don't necessarily have to write a marketable book. Again, we talked about the bucket where you just want to write the book you want to write, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I will give you advice on if you want to write a marketable book, this is the changes you need to make. If you don't, and that's why we'll always start the conversation with those goals. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? So again, developmental editing, by far the most expensive kind of editing, thousands and thousands of dollars, because I will tell you, depending on the size of the book, I will spend 40 to 60 hours on it, figuring it out, taking it apart, and all my 20 years of experience in this, I'm bringing that to you. You would not be able to get, it would take you, another 20 years to get all the experience that I've had. So I'm helping you shortcut the process by bringing that experience to you and that talent to you. So that's what you're paying for when that hopefully shortcuts the process for you. So you're not having to spend years and years trying to figure it out for yourself. And so I would say those are the buckets and the expenses there. Yes, there are DIY versions of it. Like I said, taking a course, going to a conference. sometimes you can get good critique partners who are very gifted or good beta readers. Sometimes not. Sometimes people give you really bad advice, and sometimes you don't have enough knowledge to know the difference. And so that can be a sticky wicket. Some people just put the books out there. I see this mostly in fiction, but in nonfiction too. They put the book out there and they let the audience tell them, is this good or bad? If it sells or doesn't sell, the problem with that is you can ruin your brand.
Yes.
Right? And people dislike your book so much, they never want to pick up another one. But some people do that. And some people have made some choices, based on that. So, like with anything, when you are starting a business, there is an investment.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go down this book journey, you need to be budgeting thousands of dollars and figuring out how you're going to spend your money. What is the best use of your money? And kind of like what we said at the beginning, sometimes a strategy call can really be the best way for someone to say to you, here are your goals. Here's how I recommend you try to reach them. Here's how I recommend spending your budget. If your budget is limited, I might say, okay, I recommend this for you, depending on, I always look at a sample of someone's writing to see where they're at. And so that can be a real big factor in helping you use your money wisely. I have so many heartbreaking stories of people who have gone to somebody who they originally come to me, you're too much money. So they go to somebody else who does a terrible job, still costs them a significant chunk of change, right? And they're very upset and disappointed. And then they come back to me and I'm like,
and now they spent more.
And now you spent more money. And so it's very disappointing when people I hate that there are people in this business that rip people off. I absolutely hate that. And so spend a little bit of money to get educated and to figure out how to use your budget wisely.
And just to add to it, just because you can write doesn't mean you can write a book.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't write a book. But it doesn't mean that you can do it without an investment. I think of just because I can make the phone or the camera work on my iPhone, doesn't mean I can be taking professional branding shots.
Right.
I'm going to do that. I need to invest in the craft and invest in the equipment,
or just hire Chanel.
Or just hire Chanel. I went and saw her.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. We had a lot of fun on Friday. Yeah. Or but think about it in everything you're doing, and so. I think in this industry, many people go, well, but I can write a book. Like anybody can write a book. Yes. But from an entrepreneur standpoint, I want to make sure that you write a book that not only sells and is marketable, but helps you build and grow a business and make the impact that you really want to make. And that requires you to not do it haphazardly. Like it means that you are going to make decisions and investment decisions. And will you get the direct ROI? I'm sure we'll talk about this.
Yes.
The investment in what you're doing, does that mean you have a direct alignment to the number of book sales? Maybe not. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't help you align with your overarching authorpreneur goals. There is no way I could be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't written my first book.
Exactly. And for nonfiction, this is much more true than for fiction, because nonfiction authors usually are using their book for speaking or for coaching or as a core part of a business. Whereas fiction, it's harder. It's a little squishier to develop a book out of that, because it's entertainment and it's lovely. People love it and want entertainment, and that we need that. It's all part of how we convey what it's like to live in our society and the things that matter to us. So storytelling is never going to go away. It's very important.
Absolutely.
It's a little more difficult to hit on a pain point for fiction authors. Still can be done, but it is more challenging. But yes, it's what is the bigger picture here? I would say for the most part, you do not want to think about, because I get this question, okay, well, if I spend this much money on editing, can you guarantee I'm going to earn that back in book sales? No, I cannot. There's guarantee.
No guarantee.
There's no guarantees in this business. There's really no guarantees for money.
I have seen some of the worst books make so much money, and some of the best books not make any.
And I say to people all the time, when I worked in traditional publishing, And these are people that do this for a living and they're experts. We expect 9 out of 10 books to not earn any money, to cost us money. They're losses. It's the 1 out of 10 that pays for all the rest.
That's
If we had a crystal ball and knew which one that was, we wouldn't get the other 9, right?
I mean, life would be easier. You could do more with less.
Yes. So if the people who do this for a living can't figure that out,
yeah,
how is anyone else? And when you're a single author with a single mindset and a single point of view and a single message, you know, if you write 10 books, we'll all tell 10 of them, you know, resonate. Maybe only one of them does. Maybe you have to write 9 before the 10th hit. I mean, there's just so incredibly unpredictable. And look at traditionally how many authors and writers and artists get famous after they're dead. So, right. So, I mean, it's incredibly unpredictable. So you have to do this because that's where your heart is, because this is important to you, because it's meaningful. This is why I draw a lot of parallels with things that you enjoy, like vacations and hobbies and stuff that really fill you up and fill up your soul, and it's very meaningful to you, and you're happy to spend money on it because it gives meaning to your life. You don't expect to make money if you pick up photography as a hobby. You don't expect to make money on that. You expect to have fun with it and to enjoy it. And so I think we have the wrong mindset about books. This comes from really, really old traditional ways that don't even work anymore. And so we need to
I love your perspective on that. And you're completely right. This is a channel for you to do something that matters to you.
Yes.
And just like you would invest in an airline ticket to get to a destination that is something you're excited to do, you do need to look at this process as in the same way. It's brilliant. I think it's a beautiful parallel for authors to take a peek at. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jen.
It's one of my favorite things to tell people, because I think we need to reset our mindset around that and not be thinking that this has to make us money, because that's an incredible amount of pressure to put on yourself, and you have so little control over that. So what you do have control over, though, is what you love and what you enjoy and where you're going to spend your time and money.
Brilliant.
So that's the focus. So next week, we're going to talk more about the editing, your expenses in the actual editing process and the production and all of the nitty gritty where people tend to expect to spend money. And so we will go through all of that. And then the final week, we will talk more about the marketing part and what that can, what that price can be. Where, and like with all these, I mean, you could disguise the limit. I mean, there is definitely ways to spend a whole lot of money in this, but we're trying to give you the general area, kind of the bell curve, right? And the fat part of the bell curve of where you can.
I want you to be prepared. And just have your eyes opened.
Yes. When people come in to me and they're expecting to spend a couple $100s on editing, and I give them a quote that's several $1,000s, and they're completely shocked, that makes me sad, because I think they did not know what they were getting. They didn't have the right expectations. And so we're hoping to educate on that.
I love it.
Book
over there.
Huh?
What you been reading?
Oh, book. Same one. I finally finished it. Undefeated Marketing System by Philip.
What would be the 5-star, 4-star?
I give it a 4-star. He comes from a very interesting political background. He helps get people elected by running data on the areas that they're trying to get elected from. What matters to these constituents? What 2 or 3 things, what you believe in and what's important to them. And so he's very big on knowing your audience. You got to know your audience. And you and I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Absolutely.
And so he talks about doing research and all that kind of thing. That's really important. But he says something at the end, and at the end, he's got 20 tips for marketing tips. Once you have figured out your strategy, these are tactics. But one of them, and this is just a good advice in life anyways, it says, write every customer a handwritten thank you note after each purchase.
That is an art that is lost.
It is. So my grandmother passed away last year, but she was really big on sending cards. That was a big thing, right? And so I decided that in her honor, I want to do that. So I actually bought a big box of cards from Costco,
Mm.
and I have on my calendar when to send cards to people because nobody does it anymore. And there is something now really special about getting a card in the mail. And
Yep.
so, granted, if you're selling your books on Amazon, you're not going to know who all of your customers are. But I love the idea of sending a note, encouraging, thank you, thinking of you, right? And there's actually a business, around this. There's a business called Send Out Cards, I think, that actually will help you send cards out to people. And I think that's fantastic. So I just love that idea of think about how you can personally touch someone in some way. I think that is just fantastic advice. No matter.
Yeah, and be memorable. That art in our fast-paced world, the art of the pause and reflecting and telling someone that they matter will be remembered. And that
Absolutely.
is that to me is a beautiful part of authentic marketing at the core is being remembered because you've done good,
Because you care about somebody. Yeah,
because you care.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
authors, we're just saying right here, words matter. They have power. Your message has power, and you have power. So we invite you every week to join us to take that beyond to the page and beyond as we talk about all things book and marketing. So have a
See you
fantastic
next
rest of your
week.
week, and we'll see you later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.